Hello everyone, this is Serious Trivia. Welcome back to our final Mandate of Heaven preview video. We're finally covering Liu Hong, the inconsistent emperor. So Liu Hong here, starting situation very hard, and his character specialization's the unique emperor character. He's the ruler of the Han Empire, cannot be deployed in battle. There's a whole list of characters in the Han Empire that cannot be deployed, and we'll go into all of that once we load up in the game. So can't deploy just means we can't have him on the battlefield leading armies. He will still be available in court, and he will be still available for skill tree assignments and items. He doesn't have any bonuses. He just have plus 200% income from family estate. This is the richest family estate you can have because you are the heir to the throne, or you are the emperor at the start of the game. And his faction specialization is political influence. It's used to you can gain political influence by constructing administrative office buildings. These are the yellow buildings, and you can use this resource to fire characters from court and also to annex factions diplomatically. So this is one way you can expand, given that you own the entire empire. So if you want a piece of land that one of your subject controls, you can use some of your political influence point to just annex it. But if you do it too much, they will hate you for it. So it's kind of like the annexation of entire vassal. You can do it, but you won't make any friends out of it. In terms of unique features, we have the Imperial Army. Now everyone has the Imperial Army once you get the dragon reforms at the end of each of the branch of the skill reform tree. You unlock the Imperial Army. The only thing different here is that you start out with a whole army full of Imperial Army units led by He Jin, the Butcher of He. We'll talk about all this once we load up in game, but this also means we basically don't have any unique units in this faction. We just start out with the strongest army in the game. Additionally, we have the Imperial Court. This is also not something that's unique to us. We start out as the emperor, so we start out with the Imperial Court, meaning we'll get more positions. They'll be used to manage different things. But as the game progresses, if you play any other faction, you could also form an empire. You could also capture him, be regent of the emperor, or kick the emperor out and be emperor yourself, and then your court screen will also transform into the Imperial Court that Liu Hong controls. So that's just something to keep in mind. So you start out with all the unique features that's added in the Mandate of Heaven DLC, but none of them are actually unique to you. You just have access to them earlier. Reward Official is your unique political assignment. This is probably the only thing that's unique about your faction. You have political influence increase by this assignment. You get character experience boost, but it will cost you food and public order. And it's only available to faction leader, faction heir, or advisor. So that's something Liu Hong could potentially do as he sit in the back and enjoy the view. We do start out with lots of noteworthy characters. He Jin over here is our Empress's brother. He is the Grand General of the Imperial Army at the beginning of the story here. And then we also have Yuan Shao and Kong Rong. These are familiar faces. They will progress as the story goes on. Given certain conditions, they will leave you and form the factions that we're familiar with at the beginning of 190. So that's just something to keep in mind. We'll be talking a lot about lore and characters as we start this campaign. This will be multiple episodes for this preview just because there's a lot of ground to cover, a lot of characters, a lot of stories. We'll also showcase a little bit of how his faction works. So we'll get started right away here. Looking at the options, we're doing legendary 40 minutes as usual, and see you guys in the game. Alright, we're loaded up in game. The Emperor under Heaven. The passage of the seasons, the blessings bestowed by the heavens, the trying times of hardship, all come and go. The Han endures, as it always has, as it forever will. You are leader of many, appointed by divine right, but human desires are not always noble. There are those who covet that which is rightfully yours, both within the empire and without. Long united must divide. Thus it has ever been. Indeed. Look at history. No empire stands forever. The Imperial Army delivers justice to the wicked. Shen Shi once again is going to get beat up. We're going to get 25 points of political influence for doing that. But before we get on with the mission, let's take a look at our faction. So we start out in the capital city of Luoyang. This has been the ancestral capital of the entire Eastern Han Dynasty. If you guys are familiar with our lore series, you might know what I'm talking about. In case you're new to the channel or you don't know the history of the Han Dynasty lasted about 400 years. For about the first 200 years, it was historically referred to as the Western Han Dynasty. And during that time, the capital is actually in Chang'an. And what happened was, at the end of the Western Han Dynasty, a regent named Wang Mang was able to rebel against the empire and temporarily formed a new dynasty called the Xin Dynasty. And what happened during that time for 14 years is that he was able to basically transform his position as regent into an empireship himself, as he kind of ruled over the land. But eventually, generals loyal to the Han Dynasty and family members of the original Han Dynasty was able to overthrow his dynasty and restore the Han. And the new restored Han Dynasty lasted for another 200 years till about this point where we're at. And this part in history is referred to as the Eastern Han Dynasty. And after ending Wang Mang's rebellion, the capital got moved to Luoyang. So that's also another reason why when Dong Zhuo burned down Luoyang and decided to move to Chang'an, Dong Zhuo kind of played on superstition and made his case, saying that 200 years of Chang'an, 200 years of Luoyang, it's time to move back if we want to extend the Han Dynasty. That's how he kind of sold it, even though it was more of a military retreat because most of the gate passes to the east of Luoyang has fallen as the coalition army are pushing in. So burning down Luoyang and retreating to Chang'an, which is closer to Dong Zhuo's source of power in the Liang province, was just a military strategy. But he had to sell it to the people and to the government officials. So he kind of played on the fact that for 200 years, the capital used to be in Chang'an, and then 200 years in Luoyang. Time's up, time to go back to extend the dynasty. So we're here in a large regional city, very high level, costs a lot of food, and this gives us 6 building slots. Technically, a regional city also gives us 6 building slots, so we could level down our capital if we want to save some food. It will actually save us a total of 10 food right away here. So that's an option you should think about, because food management, as you see, is a big issue in the beginning. We do get a lot of production just by having eunuchs. Eunuch policy gives us plus 26 food and 3 from farming, actual farming here inside the commandery. Our economy is down the drain. We have negative 6,599 gold per turn, but our treasury is loaded. 99k in our treasury. This is the game's design. The Han Dynasty at this time period definitely did not have a big treasury. As the Yellow Turban Rebellion started, a lot of the local officials reported that the treasury basically ran out, and they had no money, they had no food, they had no linen. So basically a lot of the production were halted. We know the Yellow Turbans was so scary at the beginning, as we talked about how Nanyang fell and how Yinchuan fell. So the capital felt surrounded. So it got so scary for the emperor, who is super greedy in terms of hoarding wealth, that he opened up his own personal piggy bank and gave out all his money to field the army to defend the capital. Obviously, after the Yellow Turban died down, he just got worse and tried to recoup all the losses he had from his own personal account and got more money back. But historically speaking, definitely shouldn't have a huge treasury. The game is just trying to ease us into it because we start out with a huge deficit. The city is built quite well. We have this building chain of the administrative office, which is providing income. This is something new in this DLC patch. And it also gives us political influence, which is our unique resource. And the higher tier it goes, the more influence we'll get, the more income we'll get. We will lose public order, but we'll get an elite retinue to replace as the palace guard. Very, very strong building after the patch change, and something I think you should definitely consider building towards in the beginning here. And to help our capital's defense, we have the patrol building here, which is part of the military infrastructure. This entire building chain will provide additional garrison retinue, a whole additional one right here. Right now only 4 units because we're only level 1. Once you hit level 3, you get the full size retinue. Additionally, on defense, you'll get ranged trebuchets and crossbow, multiple bolt crossbow on the walls to help you defend. We also have a Confucian Shrine to give us a little bit of public order. This is one of the few government building chains that does not provide political influence. We're only able to get political influence from this administrative office building chain, so we're kind of limited by this chain here. And only the palace route gives us the big amounts, right? 12 points, 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. But if you go the corruption reducing route, it's only +1. And you can only build the palace building once. So you're going to be able to max out here for other commanderies. Just planning out ahead. Here's our farm for 3 food. A little bit pathetic, but we need every bit of food we can. Tax collection building is already built. So it feels like we almost want to farm rebellions here and max out peasantry income. There's a lumberyard that gives additional peasantry income. It's owned by the empire right now, but looters are going to take it, and then we're going to be able to take it back from the looters and add it to our territory. So that'd be nice. We have 1 additional building slot. Technically, if we're building this commandery for income, it will be peasantry plus commerce because we have trade port. So probably in building will be a decent choice. But also government support right now would also work. I have to fumble around with the buildings for a bit to see what I think is the best build. But going forward, we have a starting army here. This is the Imperial Army, led by He Jin. Now, He Jin, he's called the Butcher of He. He is referring to his surname of He Jin over here. And the Butcher refers to the fact that he worked as a butcher. He Jin comes from a very poor family. His father was a butcher. He was a butcher. His father died quite young, and he had to help raise 5 siblings, which includes Empress He here. So Empress He is He Jin's sister. So He Jin got his position as the general of the Han Imperial Army through the fact that his sister is the Empress. And if you think about, like, if you're curious how such a poor family became, sudden rise to the point where the sister is the Empress and the brother is the general, this is because most emperors of the Han Dynasty actually married commoners. The family is very cognizant that if you marry people who are very influential from powerful clans, you're going to run into problems where regions are going to be too powerful and you might lose control and lose the dynasty. So oftentimes they would choose to marry commoners, and Empress He is added to the court in such a manner. But most people who join the court tend to be shy, reserved girls, and they don't stand out because most of the concubines are shy, reserved girls. But Empress He here, raised in a butcher's family, was a bit more outgoing, and she was able to capture the eye of Emperor Liu Hong, and 2 of them got together quite nicely, and Liu Hong made her empress. And after you make these commoner girl empresses, obviously you have to reward their family with titles. So He Jin eventually became general. So that's how that story goes. Now, as you probably can guess, the problem here is that once you make their relatives powerful generals, you're going to return to the regent problem as before. As we have seen repeatedly in the history of the Han Dynasty, the successor of Liu Hong, Liu Zhi, also suffered through a long period of regent issue as he was growing up. So that's He Jian's story there. And his bonuses are quite nice. He gets the standard 60 points, which is very standard there. He reduces fervor by 10 points in local county. So he's kind of the counter Yellow Turban there. Wherever he is present, he can neutralize the Yellow Turban's plus 10 fervor. But most importantly, the army that he commands, the Imperial units will have minus 80% upkeep. So this single bonus makes him the ideal candidate to field such a large army. Our deficit is not because we have such an expensive army. Because if you look at the upkeep costs, 11, 43, 26. Now, so the standard cost would be 5 times this figure. So we're definitely fielding a very cheap army. If you look at our treasury's expenditures, we're only using 560 for that whole army. Super cheap. To put that in perspective, 560 is the cost of 2 trebuchets in terms of upkeep. That's how cheap this army is. Our biggest drain is our character salaries. We have such a big roster of characters. It says 29, but 29 characters are deployable. Oh no. We have total of 29, except for some of these are just super expensive. And that's why we actually have to spend a lot of time this episode just talking about characters. And we'll get to playing the game probably next episode. So we have this huge army. We have Shen Shi, who is now a vanguard right in front of us. We're going to beat him up very soon. But we are going to talk about our resource next. So first off, we have 3 influence circles here. These are similar to the alignment system in the 8 Princes, where you have 3 different factions that you have to try to please, and you have your own resource bar called political influence. So these things are a little bit separate. We'll talk about the political influence bar first. So this bar gives you public order. That doesn't really matter at this point, but it goes from 0 to 800. You gain this through buildings, which we already saw. The administrative office buildings giving us 12 points per turn. Missions will also give us more of these resources. And we can use these resources to annex Han or Empire territories. Doesn't have to be Han Empire. We can annex other factions who are part of the Empire. So we need to, and then another use of this political influence is to fire people from our court. Usually in the game, you can just go up to a person and release them from service. But for our faction, we have to spend 25 political influence to kick someone out of our court. If once we recruit them, they're stuck with us until we fire them through political influence. And our court looks completely different. It's the Empire's Imperial Court here. We have our heir, our son, Liu Bian. We have a Grand Tutor position. We have Imperial Chancellor position, Grand Commandant, Grand Excellency of Work, Grand Excellency over the Masses. So if you feel like these 5 are the normal court positions, but it's actually not structured like that. These 3 here are called Sangong. They are the 3, I guess they will be, I don't know how to translate Sangong, but they are basically the 3 top officials here. They kind of represent prime minister roles here. And the Grand Commandant is obviously responsible for the military. Grand Excellent over the Masses is the main prime minister. And this is the assistant prime minister. That's how the Han court is structured. And below them are the 9 ministers, or 九卿. Sangong 九卿 is the system that the Han Empire is run on. And 九卿is basically 9 ministers responsible for different areas of running the empire. You have Minister Harold. He is sort of the foreign minister. Oh, they give you explanation. That is very, very nice. Okay, so the Minister Harold draws a wage of 2,000 shi. This is actually a mistake by CA. So the Chinese term for a unit of measure of weighted rice is the same character as rock in Chinese. So it should be pronounced shi. But when used as a unit of measurement in this time period, it was actually pronounced dan. So it should be 2,000 dan. So as we mentioned before, court officials are paid in rice or wheat, whatever grain that's available for the region. It's paid in food, and it's weight. It's by weight. We cover this in a lore series, episode 5 of Fall of Han. If you guys are interested, go check that out. But Minister Harrow is responsible for receiving all dignitaries, state guests, and members of the imperial family within the empire. This guy is basically the Secretary of State, responsible for foreign policies. Minister of Justice. Oh, I really like how they give you what they do. Alright, I'll let you guys review these then. There's no point for me to go over and read all of them. But they're basically responsible for different fields of imperial work. Okay. But most importantly for gameplay, each character represents a certain faction. And if they're in the position of court, they will add those factions' influence to your resource bar here. So for example, Deng Sheng over here as part of the bureaucrat faction. So if we have him employed here, he will provide +3 points of bureaucrat influence every turn. And we have, who is this? Dong Cheng. Okay, Dong Cheng. He is part of the warlord faction. So we get +2 points of warlord influence per turn. And Xing Zhang over here is dynasty faction, +3 dynasty influence per turn. So what do these do? Bureaucrat influence goes from 0 to 90, divided 5 times, so 18 points per bar here. And it goes from the lowest bar, where you will lose 1 trade agreement, increase construction cost by 50%, +1 construction time, +10 satisfaction, +25% character experience, +25% recruitment costs. And it gets worse. So everything becomes more magnified as you rank up here. And eventually at our current rank, we are suffering loss of 5 trade agreements, +250% construction costs, +3 construction time, 120% character experience, and +120% recruitment costs. So the bureaucrat's basically crippling the empire. The game's explanation of the bureaucrat is a twisted influence by the Unix policies. So that's why bureaucrat is bad in our gameplay here. Dynasty influence represents the influence of our imperial family, Liu Hong's family. And what it does is it provides you army, assignment slots, and plus starting rank for new generals. That's something I have not seen before, so it's interesting you can get new generals starting at higher ranks. And it goes up from there, 2 armies additional slots, 2 additional assignment slots. And at tier 3, there's a big change from tier 2 to tier 3, where you get -10 diplomatic relationship with all factions. So as the imperial family becomes stronger, you lose holdings over your empire. Different warlords might start thinking about becoming independent, and that's why you lose diplomatic relationship with them. But you get +3 army, +3 assignments, +2 rank for new generals, and you enable annexation of subjects. So once you hit the 3rd tier here for dynasty, you can start using your political influence to annex territories owned by subjects. And then this continues to rank 4. It gets worse in terms of diplomatic relationships, but everything else goes up. And finally, you have 5 army, 5 assignment, +3 rank, but -30 diplomatic relationship with all factions. So there's probably a sweet spot of maybe here, where you get +2 rank for new generals. Like going from 3 to 4 doesn't seem such a big upgrade, but going from 2 to 3 opens up a lot more options. This Dynasty Influence goes from 0 to 60. So each bar is actually 12 points. It's a little bit different. Each one has a different value. 90 points, 60 point, and Warlord's also 60 points. So 12 points per bar. So Warlord faction represents the strength of your entire empire and the warlords within. Once you get the 1st tier, you gain trade agreements within your empire, so you can use that. You gain +5 income from all sources for all allied factions, and +2% replenishment for all allied factions. So you are helping everyone in your empire become stronger. Giving them more income also gives you more income because you are taking the tribute, How empires work is that you will take 80% of the income from every single member of the empire. You'll pull that money together. You'll add a bonus to it, and then you'll divide that evenly and give it back to all empire members. So it's kind of a stabilizing effect in terms of how much income empire members get. And here you're influencing all that income by adding more bonuses to that whole pool of income that you're receiving, while also giving replenishment to every single member of your empire. And these boosts increase to higher values as you go up. And at tier 3, we get a big change as well. So here we go from 2 trade route, 10% income, 4% replenishment, to 3 trade route, but -5 satisfaction within your own court. So as you're making your warlord stronger, your own court is going to suffer. But it enables war coordination with subjects. You can start telling your subjects where to attack. So it gives you more control as you play more of an emperor role. And then this continues going forward as satisfaction gets worth within your faction. So the playstyle here is basically, this is just plain bad. We don't want this at all. We want to lower this as much as we can. None of this is good. So this is a bad. And these two are kind of the choices here. Do you want to be a strong empire, as in make your own faction strong? Or do you want to play a role that's more passive, where you have a strong hold over your subjects and you let your subjects become stronger and you control them to fight for you at the risk of them leaving you? Right? They could, start their own factions. So that's basically the duality here. And we have a huge roster, 16 generals that we can appoint to the court, and all these generals that are already appointed to the court. If we look at our family tree, it's us and our wife, both not deployable. This symbol right here means they cannot be deployed. It's basically a eunuch hat. Very interesting here. And we have our heir, 6-year-old Liu Bian, and 1-year-old Liu Xie. He eventually is the puppet emperor in the 190 campaign. But we're not there yet. Known factions. Oh, that's interesting. Oh yeah, this was added in last patch. We can actually see other factions' family tree. Not important. Let's go back to characters. Let's talk about who everyone are. And the best way to do it actually is to start out here, because we can see non-deployable characters. So in terms of non-deployable characters, we already know the Emperor, the Empress, and then there are 13 other characters here, right? I think it's correct. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And all 13 of these characters are eunuchs. And they are collectively known as the 10 eunuchs. I know it's super confusing because there are 13 of them, but historically recorded, they're called 十常侍, or the 10 eunuchs. And in reality, there were 13 of them, but I don't know why they just thought 10 would be a better number to record them. They didn't want to write 十三常侍. So there are 10 of them. There are 13 of them, but they're collectively known as the 10 eunuchs. So none of them are deployable. Their job is basically to serve us inside the Imperial Palace. And collectively, these 13 guys help raise Liu Hong. Because Liu Hong's story is that he was not the son of the last emperor. The last emperor, Liu Zhi, had no sons. So after he died, they had to pick a distant relative to inherit the throne. And Liu Hong was picked because he was weak and he was young, and his dad has already died. He was a small regional duke. They picked him and they grabbed him from his home and moved him to the capital and told him, "You're the emperor now." And all he had was these eunuchs around him. So they had a huge influence on him growing up. So that's why he ended up the way he is. Let's just say that. And because of his relationship with these 10 eunuchs, we have characters like Zhang Rang here, who is known as the Imperial Father. It's not because he's the emperor's dad. It's because the emperor sees him as a father figure and actually calls him dad. And we have also Zhao Zhong over here, who is the Imperial Mother. So there we go. That's how much influence these eunuchs had on the Emperor. And eunuchs in the game is a new trait that's added in. You get -4 authority. They passively create 3 bureaucrat influence. So your bureaucrat influence will have +39 just from all the eunuchs you have in your court. They also have +10% character salaries faction wide. So the more eunuchs you have, the more all your characters will be in terms of salary. So we definitely want to get rid of eunuchs ASAP. The only thing that they provide that's good is food production. And they also have -1,000% chance of having children, -1,000 chance of having illegitimate children. It's -1,000 because we mentioned that probably if you put -100 and you have some trait like fertile that's +50, you'll end up having children, which would be ridiculous. The fact that you have -1,000% chance of having illegitimate children makes you wonder whether the game will allow illegitimate childs. Like the faction leader's wife gets together with another general and one of the kid is actually not yours. That would be very interesting, to say the least. So yeah, these eunuchs gotta go. These are all eunuchs right here, 13 of them. And we'll get rid of all of them pretty quickly. And below them are actual generals that we can use in the court. And some of these have unique titles. Harbinger of Chaos. This is Qiao Xuan. Yeah, Qiao Xuan. I actually don't know who he is, because it doesn't ring a bell. Harbinger of Chaos doesn't help either. Yeah, but we'll skip him. We'll talk about who we know. Xing Zhang is also someone I don't know, but he doesn't have a unique background, so he's probably not that important. Xun Shuang, he's someone we do know. He's a burn officer, which is great. Technically, he shouldn't even be a champion. He should be a strategist. He is Xun Yu's uncle. Xun Yu had a unique model in the game, and he's the one who drove the carriage for Li Ying, who is the leader of the party faction for the scholars during the party incident. The entire Xun family are from Inchuan, and they are known to be very intelligent. He is one of the brothers, brother of 8, and all 8 of them are quite talented. They were known as the 8 dragons of Xun. He's one of them, and their kids all became very talented, influential clan during the Three Kingdom period as well. So he started out as our minister of the coachman. So basically, he's responsible for raising horses for the imperial family. Zhang Wen, he is a very talented officer at the time. He was sent out to fight in the Liang Rebellion, another brilliant officer. So we do start out with some very nice generals here. Yuan Shao, no need to say, everyone know who he is. And Chen Dan, okay, also not unique title. Cui Lie, okay, he's actually kind of interesting. So Cui Lie here was a well-known scholar, but he wanted to get a high government official job, but he couldn't because the government was super corrupt. So the only way he could get a high government job is to participate in the emperor's auctions, as the emperor really liked money, so he sold government posts, including the highest post, Sangong. So he sold these positions, and the going rate was 10 million. 10 million for these posts. But Cui Lie here doesn't have that much money. So he went and found the nanny of the emperor, I think. It's basically someone who raised the emperor growing up, and he begged her to sweet talk the emperor to give him a 50% discount. And the emperor agreed, and he paid 5 million for the post. But after he bought the job, what happened was the scholar community kind of shunned him because he got his position not through merit but through money. And the emperor didn't like him that much either, because the emperor wanted the full price but had to give him a discount. So he ended up pissing off both sides. And even his son gave him the famous saying, "Tong Chou," so stinks like copper. That's kind of the saying that lasted throughout Chinese history of talking about corrupt officials who amass wealth. Basically, they stink like copper because copper was used as the currency at the time. So that's a story about him. Unfortunately, he doesn't get any background story title here. Bao Dan, complete confusion. Okay, so his story is more about his son than about him. His son is Bao Xin, who is quite important. Yeah, so I guess he's just the dad. Complete confusion, a scholar in the court. Deng Sheng. Okay, so he's also not that important, but his story, the only thing that kind of connects to the main Romance of the Three Kingdom novel is that Deng Sheng helped Wang Yun get his job. And Wang Yun, everyone knows, is Diao Chan's adopted dad or master, because she was a servant girl. And Wang Yun was trusted by Dong Zhuo to handle all affairs in Chang'an. And Wang Yun eventually set up the plan, a fictional plan, of using Diao Chan to split up Dong Zhuo and Lu Bu. So I guess he kind of assisted in that plan in the long run by helping Wang Yun get a job in the first place. Dong Chong. Dong Chong is technically part of the imperial family, technically, because Liu Hong has a birth mother. Right, he's not part of the old emperor's line. He's from a regional duke. His birth mother is Empress Dowager Dong. So Empress Dowager Dong is Dong Chong's aunt. So he's a nephew of the Empress Dowager. Thus, he has a job. It's all about relationships. Feng Fang. Feng Fang, I don't know much about him. I know something about his daughter. His daughter marries Yuan Shu, and it's Lady Feng in the game. He's the dad, bitter adversary. At least he got a title. That's interesting. Kong Rong, we all know, master scholar. And Jiu Dan, arbiter of planet. I don't know the character, but given his title, I think he's someone whose job is called Qin Tian Jian. His job should be just to observe the sky as an astrologer and study signs and tell the emperor what these signs mean. So he's kind of the government-sanctioned fortune teller, kind of reading signs of the sky to predict what will happen. A dangerous job, because if you mess up, off with your head. That's it. We covered everyone. We can actually start playing now. So before we start, we have to kind of manage our court. We have these positions that's active. We have 5 administrator slots. That's insane. And each of these provide a small bonus. So the character Yuan Shao will provide +2 warlord influence just because he's a warlord. I think all the minister position provide 2 points of whatever faction they're part of. Oh no. I see. It's just the ratio of these. 90, 60, 60. So the ratio is 3-2-2. That makes sense. So there, it's the set percentage of the whole bar. Yeah, so aside from the effect that Yuan Shao will provide in terms of warlord support, we'll get position effects. So we'll get 1 additional assignment, and also the character will have no desire for higher office until rank 4. So we can definitely assign some people here. There's no reason to assign any of these eunuchs. We want to get rid of them as soon as possible. Oh, you can actually assign Empress. Interesting. He Jin. Well, technically, He Jin should be here. But it's fine. What do I want? I think I want more warlords in the beginning, because you get more income, you also get more replenishment and trade to neutralize this. So we're going to temporarily put Yuan Shao in here, and maybe He Jin here just in the beginning. +3 warlord. How come he gets more? Have to figure this out. +5 diplomatic relationship with all factions. Not that important. Yeah, not that important. But we do need the warlord point, so there we go. Now, administrators, we're kind of out of characters. Oh, he's not a He's not a eunuchs. He just represents the bureaucrats. The rest of these are all eunuchs. Right. Yeah, you can't deploy them, so they're eunuchs. Construction costs. Do we have a sentinel? But he's providing warlord. Yeah, I guess that's the best we can use for him, because he will have we won't be using bureaucrat if you put him here. Right. Let's put him down here. Strategists, what do you call it? Strategists, administrators aren't that bad. You can get food, +5 food quite quickly, and you can get industry and commerce. So he doesn't have any other useful skill. +5% attrition, not shabby. We got a bunch of items. Let's give him these axe. His armor, just expertise. We'll get loose formations. Oh, also, additionally, all Imperial armies come with all formations unlocked. You don't need a strategist. And the Emperor here can pick up the trader for trade influence, even though I think we don't have any trade routes. We have super high authority here. It's so high that I think I should give the sword away, because the extra satisfaction doesn't help us. So can we trade swords? Can we do that? Oh, yes, we can. Okay. So if we trade swords, what happens is we actually lose only 1 point of satisfaction here. It was 13. And then if we look at our Empress, right, she has a personal satisfaction which will be increased by this, and she's currently +3. So if we swap this, oh, we're still only +3. Wow, you need help, but she'll be happier, so I guess this is better. And basically the only loss here is Yuan Shao lost his blade, which is not a big deal because he's gonna ditch us. Speaking of ditching us, and we're gonna give your sword to the Emperor, and then we're gonna give this to our administrator so that he can have more discount in building. 10%. Okay. All right. All the items are through. I don't believe we have trade. Yep, because of the -5. Okay. I think we'll get the fight done, and then we'll do the buildings, and then we'll go to next turn. Can we actually reach? Yeah, we can reach them. So one of the penalties of having the Imperial Army is that the replenishment rate is punished, severely punished. I think you lose out like -22% replenishment. So in the beginning, you basically have no replenishment on this army. So you got to be careful when you do fights. You don't want to actually suffer losses. So we're going to be very careful when we fight this. And we're also going to show off the units. So we're going to load up in here. All right, we're loaded up in here. The enemy just have cavalry. So we're going to pull back and figure things out real quick. We have these Imperial sword guards. These are shielded sword units. Very, very sturdy. If you look at the stats, all the stats for Imperial Army is off the charts. 80 morale, 201 charge, 96 attack rate. That's nuts. 73% melee evasion, 53% armor, 50% range block chance, and you also have available shield wall to go to 85%. It's not reflecting, but it's 85%. Don't worry. So that's one group. They don't have charge reflect, so we gotta watch out for that. And I don't think He Jin has charge negate unlocked either. So there's going to be the issue of the enemy cavalry charging us. we're going to use these guys, Imperial Gate Guards, as our front line here for this battle. They are a little bit weaker in terms of range block chance. They don't carry a shield, but somehow they have 25%, so that's already a blessing. Even higher melee evasion, and still the same 53% armor. That's kind of like every unit have the same armor equipped. A little bit slower attack speed, but more base damage. A little less charge, but we're going to use Spear Wall to kind of just destroy their enemy cavalry that's going to be charging at us. We're going to line these guys up just kind of in the middle here. We're going to use these two Spear Wall, and then we're going to kind of just protect this zone here. I don't know how the enemy is going to approach us, so we're going to cover all our grounds. And then we have our Imperial Palace Crossbow unit. These are just your more premium armored crossbow units here. You have very fast attack rate once again. For crossbow units, 20 is really high. You have 20 base damage, 45 armor piercing damage, 32 ammo, so all the stats off the charts. Still the same armor that everyone else has, 66% melee evasion. Overall, super strong unit. We're going to have them just sitting in the middle here to see how much damage we can do to enemy cavalry. We're going to pull them back before we start. We're going to hide these guys. They're not going to be taking part in this fight. We also have two captain retinues. These are similar to these guys. They're the same unit. They're just the captain. We also have shock cavalry. 398 charge damage. That's just ridiculous. We'll be hiding them in the forest, and maybe we'll get them to flank. I don't want to face off in a direct... Why can't we hide both unit? There we go. Let's call them one. We have two melee cav. If we compare the two, these guys have a lot less charge, but a lot more armor. So, I don't know. I don't really like melee cavs. I think I'd rather have all shock cavalry, but these guys have basically the 40% extra range block chance from the shield. It's actually a lot lower than I thought. I would think they would give them more because the base melee cav have 60. And finally, we have Imperial Palace Cavalry that has crossbow units on them. So they are ranged openers here. We're going to have a few of them run out to the side. We could try to harass with these guys. They do have a lot of range. We're just going to pull this formation all the way back here. And then we're going to put He Jin in the front. He can replenish, so he can get hurt all he wants. I don't really care about him. So let's start here. We don't see the enemy because it's pretty dense forest. We got to find them basically. Now our goal is to make sure we don't take any casualties. Imperial Solitude. Wow, they have abilities too. Wow. All the Imperial Army have this? Cool. So if friendly units are in range with this ability, so you need more than one to activate this. But once you activate it, immune to terror, plus 10 morale, plus 10 melee evasion, plus 10 armor piercing damage. So you want to group your Imperial Army. You don't want to have one unit randomly outside. Okay, that's good to know. Guess it's good everything come in pairs. Now He Jin isn't that strong. That's another issue. I don't know if we can actually win we can win the duel, but I don't know if we want to duel. Alright, let's get some fire down. So range units obviously is a must in a situation where we don't want to take casualties. It's like bringing gun to a knife. Oh my god, we got shredded. They died. They walked out like this much distance and they died. Now the problem is I don't see the other unit. Decline for now. Where is the other unit? Now supposedly crossbowmen are getting better at killing generals too. Apparently armor piercing damage is how you kill generals.
备好了。
We could do a duel just to make sure he doesn't
鼓起勇气，
crash into our units and kill us. Alright,
敌军士兵正在溃逃。
we'll fight. These crossbowmen are so rapid firing. Look at that. I'm glad we got a weapon. That should help us. Looks like we're winning. Yeah, it shouldn't take too long. I want to get a good angle on the execution. Finish him. Oh, chop both of his arms off. Look at that. Alright, end battle here. Alrighty, clean fight.
我军如有天助，气焰大盛。
Get money.
都放了吧。
We get the political influence we can use right away to get rid of some people in our court. So they want us to have at least 5 food. We get Heaven's Blessing. And we want to own the entirety of one commandery. So I'm guessing that's Luoyang. So the first step would be take the trade port.
心有所欲，因而导之。快点！
We can build it up. Oh, everything takes so long. It's so expensive. Because our court is a mess. So we do have some points now. So time to kick out some of these eunuchs. I don't think it matters which one we kick out. I guess we pick the highest salary. Right, 460, 402, 460. Wait, where's the other? Oh, so Imperial Mother and Imperial Father is more expensive. Pays to be mom and dad. So let's kick out dad first. Yeah, we'll lose 3 bureaucratic influence. Right now there's 39 from eunuchs. And then we'll lose out on some food as well though. Wait, sorry, misclicked. We'll lose 2 food. That might be a little rough, but we'll also drop everyone's salary by 10%. I think that's worth it. Goodbye, Dad. Alright, so we need to get more points so we can fire our mom as well. And you can see everyone's salary just dropped. Went from 402 to 385. And we're going to continue to get rid of eunuchs. Our salary's improving. Our food is getting worse. So we're going to have to downgrade this to save a little bit of food. That seems to be the best option here. We also could switch some of these buildings over. Let's not build anything here because I'm thinking we could even drop it to a small regional city to save another 8 units of food. We don't need a 6 slot. There's really nothing I want to build. I want to level this up all the way to rank 5 eventually, right? So you only need a small regional. Oh, you need an imperial city to build this, but you only need a small regional city to build this to the next upgrade. And basically, most buildings only require small regional city to max out. Only the palace requires the imperial city, so that can wait. That's no rush. I want a tax collection building. So these for peasantry, 4 buildings. Then the last building can be maybe conscription for a starting rank. Either conscription or in. We'll keep the last building floating. But we don't need a 6 building. That's what I'm saying. I think we can get rid of this as well. I have an army to defend the capital. I don't need this. And we can build this because it's free. Free, 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 free. Even though I want to build this, but that price is nuts. What can we do? We can drop the price by using assignments. So all the eunuchs are considered... Oh no, different eunuchs are different class too. Interesting. We can get food production, but next turn we're going to actually free up 10 food. If we put him here, we can immediately go up to positive 5 food. Let's see, what can Liu Hong do? We want him to level up. Hold on, I want to see his skill tree. Okay, he has the standard skill tree. We want 1, 2, 3, at least 3 more levels on him. So we're going to definitely send him on assignment. Now there is a unique assignment that only the Emperor can do. Where is he? There we go. He has reward officials. But we don't need this right now. What we need is this, tax collection. The Emperor is going to collect his own taxes. The Empress is not part of our court right now, so I don't think we need to give her levels. And plus she's a vanguard, so not much use there leveling her up. Dong Chong can help us reduce cost. So can Chen Dan. Now who do we want to level up? I think we are going to make him go for the food. He's also a brand officer, so we're going to use him long term. This is a eunuch. What can he do? He has agriculture development. Wow, he's a useful eunuch. He's a farmer eunuch. I think we're gonna level him up. We're gonna use him because all these buildings will be quicker to build. All right. So we found a useful eunuch. Don't fire him. I wonder if our dad is actually useful and we just fired him, but so mom has the satisfaction boost. We should still go for building discount. Save 1 turn. Which vanguard is going to be more useful going forward? Honorable, sincere, trusting, charismatic, loyal, competitive. Well, his skill tree is kind of messed up. His we can turn into an administrator, even though his trait's not really that friendly for administrator. It's not a big deal. I think we're just going to use Chen Dan for now because he's happy here too. Gets along with our local administrator. I might not build this then. I might wait. I might wait till they all become active and then build the green buildings. Yeah, we'll wait. Defender's leather. It's not very useful. Alright, so I think we can go to next turn. This is just so pricey to build. I don't want to build it. Let's continue. Alright, turn 2. We have 5 food now. It wasn't too hard. Just had to lower the city 1 level. Get more peasantry income. So because we have a farmer, our government support is actually going to be 1 turn. Because we get the reduction of turn from the building. And these 6 turn here, we need reforms. But let's grab this. Speaking of reforms, where do we start on the tree? We start here. Master of Ceremonies, Public Order. Not useful. Not useful at all. This is something we might need. Because we need to find a way to get ourselves some more food. We can get a trade route, but I think we're heavy in the deficit for trade routes. We have +3, -5. So we're at -2 trade routes. right? We still need to neutralize this court situation. We're going to move our army over. But I think we're going to end this first episode here. We just spent a lot of time talking about lore and units and officers. We're going to pick it back up and actually start playing starting next episode. So see you guys then. Bye!